In the heat of the desert sun, a mighty army marched. Soldiers, horses, jinn, and birds. A kingdom that no human before or after would ever possess, and leading them was a prophet unlike any other. Sulaiman, peace be upon him, the man who ruled both the seen and the unseen. His power was unmatched, his throne magnificent, and his dominion vast. But one day, as his army marched across the valley, Allah chose to reveal to him something that no human general would ever notice. Not a kingdom, not a palace, but a voice so small it came from beneath his very feet. The Quran captures this moment in stunning detail, until when they came upon the valley of the ants, an ant said, "O ants, enter your dwelling so that Sulaiman and his soldiers do not crush you while they are unaware." Can you imagine it? A massive army, thousands of soldiers, iron-clad horses and winged creatures, and yet the voice that reached Sulaiman's heart was from the tiniest creature beneath their feet. But what's even more extraordinary is that Sulaiman heard it. He didn't just see the ants scurrying away, he understood her words. The Quran tells us that Sulaiman was given a unique gift, and Sulaiman inherited from Dawood, and he said, "O mankind, we have been taught the speech of birds, and we have been given from all things the speech of birds, the language of animals, the whispers of creation that humans never hear." Sulaiman could understand them. He wasn't just a prophet of power, he was a prophet of perception. While others saw ants as insignificant, Sulaiman saw in them a reflection of divine wisdom. Because sometimes Allah hides his greatest lessons in the smallest voices. When Sulaiman heard the ant's warning, the Quran says something beautiful. So he smiled, amused at her speech, and said, "My Lord, inspire me to be thankful for your favor, which you have bestowed upon me and upon my parents, and to do righteousness that you approve of, and admit me by your mercy among your righteous servants." Look at the humility in that response. He didn't smile with arrogance. He didn't mock the ant. He smiled gratefully despite commanding armies of men and jinn. He was moved by a single creature's sincerity. That's the mark of a true believer. Someone who can see Allah's wisdom even in the smallest creation. The scholars say the ant's statement carried 3 incredible lessons. Leadership and warning. The ant didn't run away alone. It warned its community first. Even among the smallest of Allah's creatures, there is responsibility and compassion. Hasn't all done. Thinking well of others. The ant didn't accuse Sulaiman's army of cruelty. It said, "Lest they crush you while they are unaware." It assumed goodness. That harm would be accidental, not intentional. Recognition of power and humility before it. The ant knew Sulaiman's strength, yet it didn't challenge it. It acted wisely, taking protection instead of pride. And that's why Sulaiman smiled, because the ant reflected the adab, the ethics, that even humans struggle to live by. Sulaiman, peace be upon him, could command the wind. He could control the jinn. He could speak to the birds, but what truly honored him in the sight of Allah was that he understood the message of a humble ant. The valley was silent again. The army moved on, but in that small moment, between the sand and the whisper of an ant, Allah had revealed to Sulaiman, peace be upon him, one of the greatest spiritual truths of all time. It was not about insects, it was about insight. Sulaiman, peace be upon him, was one of the few human beings ever given absolute dominion on earth. He ruled over jinn, men, animals, and the forces of nature. The Quran says, "We subjected to Sulaiman the wind, blowing gently wherever he willed, and the devils, every builder and diver, and others bound together in chains, power beyond imagination. If he wished, the wind carried his throne across nations, if he commanded. The jinn built palaces and towers that touched the sky. Yet when he heard an ant speak, his heart melted with gratitude." That is the difference between power and prophetic power. The ordinary ruler becomes arrogant when obeyed by men, but the true servant of Allah becomes humble when even an ant reminds him of his duty. When Sulaiman smiled and said, "My Lord, inspire me to be thankful for your favor," He didn't just say thank you, he asked Allah to teach him how to be thankful. That's deep because gratitude isn't a feeling. It's a discipline. Sulaiman knew that every gift can become a test if it's not used for Allah's sake. The wind could make him proud, the jinn could make him arrogant, the throne could make him forgetful. So he prayed not for more power, but for more gratitude. In the Islamic worldview, gratitude is not just words. It is action. When Allah gives you a blessing, your response must manifest in obedience. Sulaiman's dua continues, "And inspire me to do righteousness that you approve of." Gratitude leads to good deeds. And that's why his kingdom didn't collapse under luxury, because it was built on faith, not arrogance. Contrast that with Pharaoh, he too was given power, rivers, palaces, armies. But his heart swelled with pride, he said, "I am your Lord, Most High." Sulaiman said the opposite. "My Lord, inspire me to be thankful." One claimed divinity, the other bowed before it. That's why one's empire drowned, and the other's name is remembered in prayer. Many Quran commentators said that the story of the ant is symbolic, not in the sense of fiction, but as a mirror to human society. The ant calls to its people, "Enter your dwellings," just as the prophet, peace be upon him, later called humanity. Enter Islam in submission, before the punishment comes upon you while you perceive not. The ant represents the believer, small in the world's eyes, but great in sincerity. She didn't rely on Sulaiman's mercy. She relied on Allah's warning. That's true taqwa, awareness that keeps you safe before harm arrives. If the story of the ant teaches humility to kings, it also warns every human being about the corruption of power, because every blessing, wealth, intellect, fame, authority has the same test hidden inside it. Will you remember Allah or forget Him when the world bows to you? Sulaiman passed that test. Pharaoh failed it, and the difference began in a single smile, a smile that said, "Allah, I see you in even this small creature." What Sulaiman witnessed that day was more than just a talking ant. It was a divine conversation between the unseen world of creation and the human heart. In that moment, Allah reminded him that even the tiniest creatures live by divine order, and that arrogance is the disease that blinds man to this harmony. So when Sulaiman smiled, he wasn't amused by the ant's fear. He was moved by its faith. Because the ant said, "Lest they crush you while they are unaware," that's not only a warning, it's forgiveness. Even in fear, the ant excused her oppressors. She didn't curse them. She didn't say, "They will kill us." She said, "They might harm us unintentionally." Subhanallah, an insect showed more good opinion than many humans do toward each other. In that one valley, the ant demonstrated adab, faith, leadership, and humility, qualities that define the people of Jannah. And the Prophet Sulaiman, the greatest king of his age, recognized that wisdom instantly. The story of Sulaiman, peace be upon him, and the ant is not a children's tale. It's one of the most profound divine allegories in the Quran, a masterclass on humility, gratitude, and awareness. Because the truth is, every single one of us is being tested with a kingdom, even if it's just our health, our influence, our home, or our tongue. And every blessing that Allah gives us carries within it a question. Will you thank me or forget me? Sulaiman, peace be upon him, wasn't great because of his power. He was great despite it. He ruled not through fear, but through shukr. He thanked Allah not only for what was visible, his throne, his armies, the jinn, but also for what was invisible, the ability to hear the speech of an ant, and the understanding that came with it. True kingship in Islam is not dominance, it is service. So when you are blessed with followers, success, or status, remember, you are not being raised above others. You are being tested more than others. When the ant spoke, Sulaiman smiled. He didn't laugh. He didn't dismiss it. He listened and turned to Allah. That is the hallmark of a friend of Allah. To see divine meaning in small events, and to respond with humility. In the modern world, Arrogance has become invisible. It's not just kings who are proud, it's the influencer, the boss, the scholar, the student, the preacher. Pride has many shapes. I know more. I'm doing more. I'm holier than them. But the ant reminds us that even the tiniest creatures can outdo us in sincerity. As the prophet, peace be upon him, said, "No one who has even an atom's weight of pride in his heart will enter paradise." Sulaiman, peace be upon him, was given more than anyone, yet his heart bowed lower than everyone. That is true nobility. This story also teaches us that every creature is alive with dhikr. Every ant, bird, star, and wave glorifies Allah. Even if we cannot understand their language, there is nothing that glorifies Him, but you do not understand their glorification. When Sulaiman was given the gift of hearing, it wasn't that the ant suddenly spoke. It was that Allah lifted the veil for him to perceive what was always happening. The same applies to us when you begin to see Allah's signs in your daily life. A delay that saves you, a hardship that purifies you, a stranger who reminds you of faith. That's Allah allowing you to hear the ants, to notice His signs hidden in the ordinary. The greatest tragedy of human history is that power often leads to arrogance. But Sulaiman's story flips that pattern. He used power to serve revelation. He didn't command the wind for vanity, but for dawah. He didn't control the jinn for control's sake, but for building a civilization of faith. So ask yourself, what am I building with the power Allah gave me? Are my blessings serving His purpose, or my pride? When Sulaiman heard the ant, he smiled with a believer's smile, one that saw beyond the surface. He knew that even the smallest creature had a role in Allah's grand design, and he knew that the true miracle was not power, but awareness, the ability to recognize Allah in everything. So the next time life humbles you with something small, a delay, an ant, a word from a child, remember, that's Allah speaking to your heart. Will you smile like Sulaiman, or march on unaware?